So in today's video, we're going to go over why you might find it hard when it comes to dribbling through cones or just doing basic cone drills. Now, of course, you don't have to be a pro at dribbling through cones to be a good and effective dribbler in your games. It's not a requirement or anything that if you can't dribble through cones, you're crap at dribbling. And in fact, a lot of people think cone drills can just be a waste of time. But what they don't understand is when you practice dribbling through cones, it's not so that you can get better at dribbling in the way you would dribble in your games. Because obviously, we're not dribbling in the exact same way we would do in our cone drills in our matches. In games, your dribbling is way more instinctive and situation based. There's thousands, if not more, of the different decisions you can make. And that's just your dribbling, never mind all the other instinctive things that you have to do in your match. And so cone drills are meant, and first and foremost, to give you feedback on how consistent you are at doing a particular dribble. Because cones are stationary objects, if you hit a cone, that's just letting you know, maybe I'm not as good at controlling and manipulating the ball, i.e. making the ball go or do where I want it to go or what I want it to do. And in a game, you can often hide that a bit more because, like I said, your dribbling is more instinctive. Whereas with cone drills, they're practicing dribbling in a consistent way. Hence why I always say it's good to balance it with free dribbling. And so the best way to think about it is, doing cone drills isn't probably the best way to improve your dribbling in your matches, but it is the best way at minimizing mistakes in your matches because of the constant repetition and the rhythm and the touches and whatnot. And so that's probably the best way to think about it. But that's that. Now let's talk about why you might be struggling at doing basic cone drills or dribbling cone drills. So the first thing is a lack of coordination with your steps and rhythm. So one of the biggest reasons players struggle through cones is they don't have good coordination between their feet and the football. And so what I mean by this is, your steps are out of sync with your touches basically. So maybe your feet are moving too slowly for the speed of the football, or maybe the ball is moving too quickly and so your feet can't really adjust and keep up. And when that happens, everything can just start to feel very sloppy and messy with your dribbling. You can start to reach for the ball, then you start to take awkward touches, which can then lead to injury, which is obviously what you don't want to do. You can just start to clip the cones, everything just becomes messy and out of rhythm. And so good dribbling through cones is not about touching the ball, it's about timing your touches with your steps, making sure every touch should match your movement. When you watch top players or top dribblers go through cones, if you notice, they make it look very smooth because their feet are almost dancing in rhythm with the football. And so if you're struggling, first you definitely want to slow it down. That'll be the first thing you can do. Just don't rush trying to go fast. Eventually you will start to build up speed, but first you want to build up the rhythm first because that's going to be the most important. And then of course you can add speed later because speed without rhythm always just looks very sloppy and messy. So the next thing is your technique probably isn't consistent. Your technique changes too much from touch to touch. Maybe one touch is with the inside of your foot, then the next touch is probably too hard in terms of weight, then the next touch just comes from a different angle and everything just becomes messy after that. And so that inconsistency makes cone drills difficult because cones expose mistakes very instantly. If you plant your foot wrong, you'll feel it. If your body position is too upright or it can be too low and uncomfortable, then you'll definitely feel that. If your ankle isn't locked properly or loose in the right areas, you'll definitely feel that. This is why cone drills are actually very useful. Other than the fact that they give you direct feedback at just not being able to dribble, it also just lets you show you that maybe you're just faulting in technical areas. So like I just said, your body, maybe your foot isn't flexed right. And so it can expose technical weaknesses very instantly. And so if you're struggling with the drills, just ask yourself, am I too upright? Are my touches too heavy or too light? Am I using the right part of the foot and connecting with the right part of the football? Is my body balanced? There's a million different things you can overlook, but that's the first step, noticing those things and then improving and purposely trying to incorporate those things over time is what's going to help you. If you focus first on connecting with the right part of the ball with the right part of your foot, then you can move on to the next thing once you've passed that, and then eventually you start to notice you're going smoother in and out of the cones. And so eventually the focus is making every touch just look similar, clean, controlled and repeatable. That consistency is what builds real technique. Not just technique that you can use one time and then make a mistake, but technique that you can consistently use over and over, and that's what's going to help you in your matches. Now for the third reason, it's very simple, and that's you're just not comfortable at controlling the ball in tight spaces yet. And that's normal. In matches you often have a bit more room than you think. even an extra yard of space can give you more time to fix a touch or adjust your body, escape pressure and whatnot. But cone draws kind of remove that comfort. Often with cone draws, especially if it's dribbling cone draws, you're trying to make the space very tight so you can get those touches very precise. The margins are smaller, your touches need more precision. And so players who can survive in games with more space sometimes struggle badly when it comes to doing dribbling cone draws because they haven't developed that true close control yet. And obviously close control is just basically, soft touches, quick adjustments, keeping the ball close to your body or as close as possible without feeling awkward, and just being able to move in the exact way you want the ball to move or your body so you can control the ball. If that's hard for you and you struggle with that, don't avoid cone work. That's exactly what you should be doing in order to improve, because once tight spaces become easier in training, normal spaces feel even easier in matches. And so if you struggle to dribble through cones, you don't want to instantly assume that you're a bad dribbler or anything. Usually it's one of the three things that we spoke about. So your coordination and rhythm could be off, your technique isn't consistent, or you're just not good at close control, keeping the ball close to you in tight spaces, and so your close control could need some work. And the good news is, all three can be improved very simply, or I would say easily, but obviously it takes practice, but it's a very simple process to improve these things. Obviously we mentioned some of them in this video. So just use cone draws as feedback, use free dribbling for creativity, and combine both of those in your training, and obviously be conscious in your games and in your training sessions that you want to improve your dribbling. If you do that consistently, your touch, control and confidence on the ball will definitely improve massively. And so you just want to work on that and just work on the things that we spoke about in this video. But that's it for this lesson on being able to dribble through cones. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.